Wanted to let you know that there's going to be some changes coming on our farm, and they're not bad. Hey, so just wanted to do some real talk. We are out here on our 4 acres, springtime, and it's getting warm. We've got our piglets right over here, the babies, and they are just chilling. But so when we started this whole homestead journey, it was supposed to be about living a more simple life and providing for ourselves instead of relying on grocery stores and all those things. But now that we're here and we've been doing this for years, we have found that we've made a few mistakes along the way, and being able to be honest with ourselves about those mistakes and being able to pivot and make changes it's a very big step. So if you're in the same boat, I would encourage you to keep watching and learn a little bit more about what it is that we're doing to make changes. And I'm gonna run inside because the highway is actually right here and the wind is blowing, so it's probably pretty noisy where I'm at. But stay tuned and we'll go into the details, okay? Okay, it's a little quieter in here. So I was talking about, when we were outside, I was talking about how our homestead will be changing, but I didn't go into any detail. It was just a little loud. So the main thing that we have noticed over the past 4 years is just the lack of extra time that we have had. And so I don't know if you guys remember, but when we first started homesteading, we were also remodeling the house that we live in because it was a foreclosure and it was a complete home makeover, basically. And so we are still in that home. It's on 4 acres, and it is, we still haven't finished it yet. And so there are places where there's a ceiling that's not done. There's the siding and windows outside that need to be done, and the front door. Also, we need to build a deck and all sorts of stuff. So there are things that have been put off because of homesteading that we would have not normally had to put off if we weren't homesteading. So that is probably one of the most eye-opening realizations that, time flies when you're having fun. And so we dug in, we started learning, we did all the things, we learned about all the things, we got all the different kinds of animals, and now it's just apparent that that's probably not the best way to go about it. I do have advice, though, about starting a homestead. If you want to know more, you should just keep following, because we're still gonna have animals. We're still gonna talk about homesteading. We're still gonna focus on doing things from the home, but it's gonna be more intentional, which is the way that we really wanted it to be in the beginning. It just kind of got out of hand, I guess you could say, after watching 50 million YouTube videos and deciding that we want, all the birds and all the four-legged creatures and all the things and our own milk and everything. So it's just become a little much. And we also have a girl who is just turned 9, and she loves to play hockey. So we want to make sure that we're available for her when she is in her season, and we also love to coach the kids too. So there's a lot that we do besides homesteading, and we want to make this manageable, and we want to show people that have 9 to 5 jobs that you can do this too, but it doesn't have to be on such a big scale. It doesn't have to be enormous, and it doesn't have to take up all of your time. And it also doesn't have to take up all of your money. So that's the next thing that we were going to talk about, is the amount of money that has been spent on supplies and building things and just bags of food, and everything added up is just outrageous. And so I knew that it was when we were buying the things, I just thought, oh, well, that's just, we'll get this thing and then that'll make us more efficient, and then we won't need to buy anything else down in the future. Or, we would justify it as, oh, well, we're not spending this money at the grocery store, but you're also still spending the money. So it doesn't end up saving you any money if that's what your goal is in homesteading. So but there's a reason why everything that we did it in a hurry, and we did it halfway, because he and I both worked full time, and we had a kid to raise, and we also had a social life and families that we wanted to try to make sure that we were spending time with those people. And so it all together was too much, because it wasn't planned. There was no actual plan. There was nothing to stick to. There wasn't, like, if we had a question about something, we would go back to our plan and say, oh, well, it's not in our plan, so we're not going to do that. We would say, oh, well, why not? Because we're already doing this and that and this and that, so let's do all these other things too. So it's much better to have a plan when you're going into homesteading before you start doing anything. And so moving forward, we want to talk about all those things, and we want to talk about why it's good to have a plan in place, and maybe talk about where to put things on your property, and maybe learn from our experience, and not do what we did because now we have to change everything. But we're also going through our house and getting rid of things because we have too many things. So it's just, we're not buying anything. We're selling stuff. I have, my SUV is full of bags of stuff to take to the thrift store. And I've sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace like crazy this week. And I'm selling animals, not all of them, but the excess. We have too many that, for personal consumption, to provide for our family, we don't need 60 chickens laying eggs. We only need probably 12. And, we don't need 15 roosters that we ended up with. We only need maybe 1 or 2. We don't need 7 coon pigs. We only need 2. And so those 2 can breed the pigs that we need to either sell or process for our own food, but we don't need to keep 5 for pets when we only need 2 for breeding. So it's these things that we have to come to terms with, and we have to realize that, having the coon pigs will make us always have to have a homestead sitter every time we go out of town for a hockey tournament, or anytime we want to even just go on a family vacation. And so we're just really having to think about these things, and it's hard. And it's hard, especially if you've bonded with those animals, because when you start homesteading and these animals are on your property, they're at your house, they become a part of your family, just like the dog that's barking in the background. And then it's harder for you to sell them, or it's harder for you to process them. Spot. Whereas if I were just running a for-profit cattle operation, with 50 head of cattle, I wouldn't have a personal relationship with all of them, maybe like we do, because they wouldn't be in my backyard. But so it's a little different. And so when you're going into homesteading, it's good to really just understand these things. And so with this channel, I'd love to kind of shed insight there, because there's not a lot of people on YouTube that are actually talking about these things. They're telling you about all the benefits of homesteading and, all the things that they do, but they're not saying, hey, we did this and this cost us this much, so we scaled it back. So I'm just trying to bring some honesty into the homesteading space on YouTube. And I'm just trying to keep it real with all those people out there that are just, maybe wanting to start something, but not really ready because they haven't thought through all of the things yet. So I'm just wanting to be here to maybe help people think it through. And then also I would love for the community to comment on my videos as well, and whether it be nice or whatever, or tell me that I did a bad job. I don't care, but just be honest and tell us about how you do things, and what worked good and what didn't work for you too. So just look for more coming in. We're going to talk about living slow, which is what the whole point about this is we were trying to just have a slower life, home cooked food from the backyard, that because we want to know where our food comes from. We want to know what our protein ate before it became a steak or before it became a pork chop. We want to know all these things because we care, but also we want to make sure that we're not taking funds from other aspects of life to do this. And we want to make sure that we're not taking time out of other things that we're supposed to be spending time on and nurturing, like our family, and like not missing out on moments because we had to go do one thing or another, or because the pigs got out, or something crazy like that. So stay tuned, and keep following, and let us know what you would like to talk about. Would you like to talk more about how to stay on a budget on a homestead, or how to pay off debt on a homestead? We could eat only from our backyard, and that would save us so much money, but we would still go to the grocery store and spend $300 on junk that we don't need. So it's just, simple things that if we just pay attention to them, and we're aware of, but we get in such a hurry that we don't have time, or we're too anxious to sit down and try to plan out, the week's meals, or, we're always on the go. And so it's take a deep breath and realize that, this is all we just have to relax and know that everything's going to be okay. But moving forward, I'm glad that y'all are here, and I'm excited to create more of a honest, open, raw kind of space about what we do. And it's not going to be sugar coated. It's not going to be beautiful, because the stuff is not pretty. I mean, I know there's a lot of videos on Facebook or YouTube that show like beautiful, beautiful homes, beautiful farms, beautiful, yeah, everything, you know. This is like, my house is always a mess. I don't know how, and I'm striving to be better, because I'm getting rid of a lot of stuff. And I think that the less stuff that's in my house, the better. That way it'll stay clean longer. But it's just, you know, it's a process. And so, you know, I'm just going to have you guys follow along as I get rid of all of my stuff and like just purge. And, you know, it's going to feel so much better. I know it, because I've been studying minimalism, and I've been reading about it in the Bible, and I've been practicing it kind of ish, but not really to the point where I really feel any different. So this next few weeks is going to be kind of the kicker. It's going to be kind of like, all right, it's do or die. If we're going to do this, let's do this. So I want you guys to follow along, encourage me, keep me going, and send me questions or comments. Let me know that you're there and watching, okay? All right, well, thank you so much, and I hope you have an awesome week. Okay, bye.